Well, Reserve Bank Governor Philip Lowe has said sorry to Australians who believed interest rates wouldn't rise until 2024. Live now to Sky News political reporter Joel Philp. Joel, he was attempting to defend the RBA's decisions, but in particular, some of the public utterances talking about locking in these low rates and people now experiencing a very different reality.
Yeah, that's right, Tom. Look, he actually said that low rates were an insurance policy against what looked like a very dire situation at the beginning of the pandemic. He acknowledged that one of the RBA's competencies is not predicting viruses, but said as variants were, the world recovered from those variants quicker than expected. At that rate, at that stage, the insurance policy of low rates had to be taken back. And of course, now the world is dealing with rampant inflation. The governor said that if energy and housing rents were able to come down, then inflation would also be able to come down with it. The RBA's forecasted that inflation will hit 8% this year and be at just over 3% by 2024. But here's one of the several occasions in which the governor said sorry to Australians who didn't hear the caveats during his promise that rates wouldn't go up until 2024.
I'm sorry that people listened to what we'd said and acted on that, and now find themselves in a position they don't want to be in. But at the time, we thought it was the right thing to do, and I think looking back, we would have chosen different language. You're right, people did not hear the caveats in what we said.
Joel, meanwhile, critics of the government's IR legislation say the crossbench was effectively playing a game of chicken with the government, and David Pocock blinked first.
Yeah, that's right. They say he didn't put up enough of a fight, considering other members of the crossbench were hoping to split that bill. But the government has made some concessions. To begin with, businesses with less than 50 employees, well, there's a possibility they won't have to be involved in this multi-employer bargaining aspect of the legislation, the most controversial bit. And businesses with less than 20 employees, well, they can choose to be simply exempt from it. Another thing which appears to have come along with this is the government's pledge for an expert panel to look into social security payments on a yearly basis and find out whether they're keeping up with inflation. The senator was asked today why he chose to put the social security aspect and tag it on with his support for the IR bill. This is what he said.
I chose to negotiate this with the Prime Minister. I think it's something that has been called for a long time. And I know on the wider IR legislation, not everyone's going to be happy. I believe we've landed in a really good middle ground that has protections for small businesses.
We saw both the Greens and David Pocock lately do something quite similar when it comes to electric vehicle subsidies, an aspect of government legislation that they wanted to push through, and they negotiated in a similar way. But back to that IR legislation, well, critics of it are now saying that David Pocock caved in too early and the bill could have been split, giving businesses their opportunity to have their say and to fight against it.
No doubt Senator Pocock is sincere in what he is trying to do in Parliament, and we spoke a lot to him, but he's new to Parliament, and I think unfortunately he blinked first in a game of chicken with the government.
I can tell you now, if it had just sat on the line, there is no way Labor would have knocked back that whole bill by the end of the week. They would have split the bloody bill. I've been up here long enough to see how it works, and that is how it should have been done.
With this legislation now due to pass the Senate before the end of the week on the last sitting week for 2022, the government says that this now means that businesses which have refused to come to the bargaining table for some time, several years, will now choose to do so, and it'll help wages rise in Australia once again. Tom?